beyond the pale. My thanks to Memology for pointing out to me an interview done by CBS News anchor Norah O'Donnell with President Trump's former Secretary of Defense. I saw a connection between this interview, released by 60 Minutes on May 6th of this year, with a story at the same time that in 2021, U.S. drug overdose deaths have hit the highest level on record. Americans are dying in record numbers from fentanyl and other opioids. Beloved celebrities such as Michael K. Williams from The Wire have died from fentanyl. Even performers such as Tom Petty and Prince have died from fentanyl. The man who set off $2 billion of riot damage in 2020, George Floyd, had a body loaded with cannabinoids, amphetamine, and fentanyl. Let's see what President Trump attempted to do to combat this crisis.
The president pulls me aside on at least a couple occasions and suggests that maybe we have the U.S. military shoot missiles into Mexico.
Shoot missiles into Mexico for what?
He would say to go after the cartels. And we would have this private discussion where I'd say, Mr. President, I understand the motive, because he was very serious about dealing with drugs in America. I get that. We all understand. But I had to explain to him, we can't do that. It would violate international law. It would be terrible for our neighbors to the south. It would, impact us in so many ways. Why don't we do this instead?
You politely push back on the idea.
My reaction would be, why not? Aren't we told that when Ukraine's country is invaded by a hostile force, we need to give every bit of financial aid we can for Ukraine to combat a hostile invasion of murderous thugs? We're supposed to use every means of our military to blow up that enemy force in Ukraine. But when it comes to the enemy force in Mexico killing record levels of Americans, there's no connection made. Instead, we have smug, arrogant elitists like CBS News' Norah O'Donnell preening and showing her outrage at how President Trump and his suggestion of bombing the drug cartels was beyond the pale. What's beyond the pale is we have this record number of drug deaths. Why is this considered acceptable? Nobody cares. It reminds me of a story that President Trump told of how Secretary Mattis came to him and said, Mr. President, I need you to sign off on an order authorizing American troops to patrol the Turkish border with Syria. And before signing this order, Trump had some questions. He asked Secretary Mattis, how long has this border dispute between Turkey and Syria been going on? And so he looked at the background detail, and President Trump was astonished. He said, this is a 2-century-old border dispute between Turkey and Syria. And Secretary Mattis said, yes, sir. That's why we need to send American troops there to patrol this border. And President Trump said, what's in it for us? We have no dog in this fight. Why would American troops pledge their blood over a 2-century-old border dispute between these two countries? And Secretary Mattis blinked and came back to President Trump and said, Mr. President, I have staked my personal reputation on this, that I have extended my personal guarantee to certain countries that we would handle this. And President Trump was asking, well, who are we making these guarantees to? And Mattis said, well, I extended my personal guarantees to countries like France and Germany that we would handle this. And then Trump was still even more astonished. He's like, why wouldn't Germany and France send their troops to patrol this border? And Mattis said, well, I've extended my personal guarantee as a matter of friendship between those countries. And Trump refused to sign this order, and Secretary Mattis resigned over this. Now, what was the crucial lesson here? Donald Trump did not work for France or Germany. Donald Trump worked for the American taxpayer and for the American military man fighting for our country's right to exist. And Donald Trump said, why are we here? What is the reason for this? And it was just to kiss butt and all these backroom deals that are made in secret rooms between different powers. And the people that pay the price? The American soldier and the American taxpayer that pays for all of this. This is the difference between how foreign policy works between the Trump administration and the Biden administration, where we will just throw endless amounts of money at the world's problems, and none of our allies will contribute a like amount. Look at all the standing armies in Europe. Think of all the European countries with the most advanced technology, the most advanced mechanized infantry, fighter jets, bombers, artillery systems, the works. All of these European countries with the latest military hardware, with massive standing armies, and yet not one of them is sending in troops to Ukraine's aid. Why? Because the United States will foot the bill, and Joe Biden has made promises, the way that Secretary Mattis would make those promises, how we will foot the bill. But you know who foots the bill for all this? The American taxpayer. The same American taxpayer who's paying the price for these drug overdoses. This is the way the world works when a Democrat such as Joe Biden runs the country, where we have endless excoriation and condemnation of President Trump. President Trump had real questions, and yet we're told in 2022 that Trump is a bad person. They don't make any connection between Biden's policies killing Americans in record numbers. They don't make any connection in why America is always required to step forward to save the world with endless amounts of taxpayer money. But there's not enough funds to secure our border or to stop the drugs killing Americans. Why is it that America and the world is in this state? Because President Trump was driven from office by the people who thought he was beyond the pale. Thank you.